Friendship usually feels casual. It's not something that comes with rules or expectations written down anywhere. Most of the time, it simply grows on its own. You meet someone, you talk for a while, you share a few laughs, and slowly they become part of your everyday life. Conversations become routine, inside jokes start forming, and before you really notice it, that person becomes someone you expect to hear from. There's no contract that defines the relationship, and no moment where both people formally agree on what the friendship should look like. Yet over time, certain patterns quietly develop between people. If you pay attention long enough, you begin to notice that most friendships follow a set of invisible rules. These aren't rules anyone openly talks about, but they shape how friendships grow, how they change, and sometimes how they slowly fade. They influence who feels close, who begins to drift away, and who feels genuinely understood. Tonight, we're not talking about dramatic betrayals or toxic behavior. Instead, we're looking at the quiet patterns underneath everyday friendships, the subtle dynamics that influence how people connect without even realizing it. Because once you start noticing these rules, it becomes much easier to understand why certain friendships feel effortless, while others slowly become distant. Let's start with the first one. Rule 1. The one who cares more adjusts more. In many friendships, one person tends to care just a little more about maintaining the connection. It's rarely obvious, and it doesn't mean the other person doesn't care at all. The difference is usually small, but it shows up in subtle ways. The person who cares more often becomes the one who notices everything. They notice when responses take longer than usual, when the tone of a conversation changes, or when something feels slightly off. Because they're paying closer attention, they also become the one who adjusts more. They initiate conversations more often, smooth over small misunderstandings, and give the benefit of the doubt when something feels wrong. Over time, they quietly take on the role of maintaining the balance of the friendship. The difficult part is that the other person might not even realize this dynamic exists. To them, the friendship simply feels normal. Most friendships don't end because of a major argument. They end when the person who has been adjusting all along finally becomes tired of doing it. When they stop initiating, stop explaining, and stop filling the silence, the friendship suddenly feels different. But in reality, it just became equal for the first time. Rule 2. Emotional roles get assigned early. Another quiet pattern in friendships is how quickly people fall into emotional roles. Very early on, sometimes without anyone noticing, everyone in a group starts becoming known for something specific. One person becomes the funny one who lightens every situation. Another becomes the calm and responsible one who keeps everyone grounded. Someone else becomes the storyteller, the chaotic one, or the unofficial therapist that everyone turns to when life becomes complicated. At first, these roles feel natural. They help the group feel balanced and familiar. But over time, those roles can quietly become expectations. If you're usually the strong one, people may not know how to react when you're struggling. If you're the funny one, being serious can make others uncomfortable because they're not used to seeing that side of you. So many people end up continuing to play the role they were given, even when it no longer reflects how they actually feel. And sometimes, after years of being known for one version of yourself, it becomes difficult to show people the rest. Rule 3. People prefer the version of you that's easy. Most people enjoy friendships that feel simple and comfortable. The easier the interaction feels, the more naturally the connection tends to continue. Because of this, many friendships quietly gravitate toward the version of you that is easiest to be around. The easygoing version, the understanding version, the one that doesn't require too much emotional effort. When you're flexible, low maintenance, and agreeable, everything flows smoothly. Plans are easy to make, conversations stay light, and the friendship feels effortless. But when life becomes heavier, when you're overwhelmed, uncertain, or needing more support, you might start to notice a subtle shift in the dynamic. Conversations may shorten, the energy might feel different, and the connection can start to feel less natural. This doesn't always mean people are uncaring. Sometimes it simply reflects how uncomfortable many people are with emotional complexity. Being easy is often what keeps friendships comfortable. Being real sometimes reveals how strong they actually are. Rule 4. Silence changes everything. Silence plays a surprisingly powerful role in friendships. When communication changes even slightly, people tend to notice. A slower reply, a missed message, or fewer conversations than usual can quietly alter how the connection feels. The interesting part is that most people don't address these shifts directly. Instead, they observe them and start interpreting what they might mean. One person might assume the other is losing interest. The other might simply be busy or distracted with something happening in their own life. But because neither person talks about it, both begin reacting to their own assumptions. Distance in friendships rarely begins with conflict. More often, it begins with silence that slowly grows over time. Rule 5. The one who listens knows more than they're known. In many friendships, there's usually one person who ends up listening more than they speak. They become the one people turn to when they need to vent, share something difficult, or talk through their problems. Because of this, they often know a great deal about the people around them, their struggles, their fears, their past experiences. They hold a lot of emotional information about others. But the reverse isn't always true. The listener often shares less about their own struggles, sometimes because they're used to being the one who provides support. They ask questions, offer advice, and shift attention back to the other person. Over time, people may begin assuming that the listener is simply doing fine, not because they don't care, but because they rarely see the other side of that person's life. Yet even the people who hold space for everyone else need someone who will listen to them too. Rule 6. Reciprocity is felt, not measured. Friendship isn't something people usually keep score of. No one is counting favors or writing down who did what for whom. But even without measuring it directly, people can still feel when something is out of balance. You notice when you're always the one making the plans, always the one reaching out first, or always the one apologizing after a misunderstanding. None of these things feel like a big deal on their own, but over time they begin to accumulate. Eventually, a small moment can trigger a reaction that seems larger than expected. A canceled plan, a forgotten message, or a missed call suddenly feels heavier than it should. Often that reaction isn't about that single moment. It's about the quiet imbalance that has been building for a long time. And even though no one ever kept score, the feeling of fairness was always there. Rule 7. Most people mirror energy, not intentions. Many people assume that friendships work based on intentions. We think that if we're loyal, supportive, and present, the other person will naturally respond in the same way. But in reality, most people respond to something much simpler: energy. They mirror what they see. If you're consistently present, They get used to that presence. If you start pulling back slightly, they often pull back too. Not necessarily because they're upset, but because people naturally adjust to the energy that's being shown to them. Friendships, in many ways, behave like mirrors. They reflect patterns of behavior more than unspoken intentions. So when energy shifts, even subtly, the dynamic of the friendship often shifts with it. Rule 8. History creates obligation. The longer you've known someone, the harder it becomes to question the connection. Shared memories carry weight. Years of experiences together can create the feeling that the friendship should continue simply because it has lasted this long. People often think, we've been through too much to drift apart now, or we've known each other forever. But time alone doesn't guarantee that two people are still aligned. Sometimes people grow in different directions, develop new priorities, or change in ways that alter the dynamic they once had. Still, history creates a quiet sense of obligation that makes it difficult to acknowledge when a friendship has naturally evolved into something different. And sometimes, people stay connected longer than they should, simply because the past feels too significant to let go of. Rule 9. Resentment builds quietly. Resentment in friendships rarely appears suddenly. It usually develops slowly through a series of small moments that seem insignificant at the time. A forgotten birthday, a canceled plan, a moment where effort isn't returned. None of these things feel large enough to start a serious conversation about, so most people let them go. They tell themselves it's not important or that they're probably overthinking it. But when small disappointments repeat often enough, they begin to create emotional distance. And because friendships don't always come with the same expectations as romantic relationships, people are less likely to address those feelings directly. Instead of confronting the issue, they slowly begin to detach. Sometimes the friendship fades long before anyone realizes resentment was building underneath it. Rule 10. The strongest friendships allow you to change. People change constantly. Priorities shift, personalities evolve, and life experiences shape us in ways we don't always expect. In many friendships, change can create tension because the dynamic people are used to suddenly feels different. One person grows in confidence, develops new interests, or begins setting boundaries they never had before. For some friendships, that shift can feel uncomfortable. The connection was built around who each person used to be. But the strongest friendships are flexible enough to grow alongside the people in them. They allow space for evolution. They allow someone to become quieter, more ambitious, more reflective, or even completely different from who they once were. Instead of holding on to old expectations, those friendships adapt. And that ability to adapt is often what keeps them lasting far longer than most. Friendships often appear simple on the surface. They look effortless, as if they grow and change naturally without much thought. But underneath that simplicity, there are always subtle patterns guiding how people connect with each other. Small expectations, emotional habits, and unspoken rules quietly influence how friendships develop over time. Noticing these patterns doesn't mean becoming suspicious or overanalyzing every interaction. Instead, it simply helps us understand why some friendships feel balanced and supportive, while others slowly become distant. Because once you recognize these quiet dynamics, you begin to see friendships more clearly. And sometimes, that clarity helps you appreciate the rare connections that continue growing with you, even as life keeps changing. Those are often the friendships that matter the most. If this made you pause and think about your own friendships, then you're already noticing the quiet patterns most people miss. This is Mind in Lines, where we slow down everyday experiences and look at the deeper thoughts behind them. If you enjoyed this, consider subscribing and staying for the next reflection. There are many more ideas like this to explore together. Until next time.